Okay, so we're diving into Star Wars, but hold on, not the usual stuff. This time it's way back, like before the Skywalkers, before even that whole Phantom Menace thing went down.
Yeah, this is deep lore territory.
Right. You guys wanted the inside scoop on the Acolyte, and we've got mountains of details from that IndieWire review you sent and the show's Wikipedia page.
Buckle up, because this deep dive is about to get real.
For real. Okay, so the Acolyte, it's not your typical lightsaber swinging, Death Star blowing up kind of Star Wars story.
Not at all. It's a crime thriller.
Yeah.
And it's all happening in the High Republic era, which, and this is for those who need a little Star Wars history lesson, was like the golden age for the Jedi.
Golden Age, so like Jedi Knights everywhere keeping the peace.
Exactly. Total peace and prosperity throughout the galaxy.
Or so we thought.
Uh-oh. I sense a butt coming.
Well, the Acolyte kind of flips the script on that whole idyllic Golden Age thing. It shows there's a darkness lurking beneath the surface, even in these supposedly peaceful times. I love that. That's what makes it so interesting, right? And IndieWire totally got that vibe, too, calling it a crime procedural with a Star Wars twist.
Yeah, it's like Law and Order meets the Force.
Seriously, which honestly is brilliant. The reviewer was especially blown away by Lee Jung-jae, you know, the guy from Squid Game.
Oh, yeah. He was incredible.
He plays this Jedi Master, Saul, who's investigating a murder that has ties to his past. And let me tell you, Lee brings that same intensity from Squid Game to this role.
Absolutely. It's even more impressive considering it was his first English-speaking role. But here's the thing. This murder mystery isn't just about finding the killer. It digs into the whole nature of the Force and this group called the Force Witches.
Hold up, Force Witches. Okay, I need a bit of a lore download here. What's the deal with these Force Witches?
They're pretty fascinating. So the Force has always been this mystical energy field connecting everything in the Star Wars universe.
Right, it's like the lifeblood of that galaxy.
Exactly. Now the Jedi, they're all about balance, control, using the Force for good. But the Force Witches, they tap into a different side of it. It's more raw, more instinctual, less about lightsabers and more about manipulating energy, drawing power from nature itself.
Okay, so less Jedi Academy and more like Force Coven.
You got it. And that difference in philosophy, in how they each wield the Force, is a huge part of the conflict between them. The show does this really cool thing where it shows you the same events from different points of view, like that Rashomon effect we talked about.
Right. Remind me that it's like different characters seeing the same event in different ways, right?
Exactly. And they use that brilliantly, especially with Amanda Stenberg's character, or should I say characters?
Wait, she plays two people.
She does. Twin sisters, Osha and May. Separated young, and get this, one's drawn to the Force Witches, the other becomes a Jedi. Talking about a recipe for drama.
Wow, talk about sibling rivalry. Seeing the same actor embody both sides of that has to be intense.
It's incredible. But to answer your earlier question about Darth Vader, you won't be seeing him in this one. The creator, Leslye Headland, wanted to explore the villain side of things.
Okay, I'm listening.
Like, how did the galaxy, supposedly at peace with the Jedi in charge, become so vulnerable to the Sith? What went wrong?
Ooh, digging into the dark side's origins. I like it. It's like they're pulling back the curtain on the Jedi Order, showing us that even the good guys have their flaws.
Exactly. And speaking of flaws, remember how the IndieWire reviewer mentioned the show subverts expectations? Well, that includes what they do with Carrie-Anne Moss. You know, Trinity from The Matrix.
Yeah, she's in this... What, does she play like a Jedi Master or something?
She does, but...
Oh no, don't tell me. They kill her off.
It was a bold move for sure.
Wow, talk about setting the tone. Nobody is safe. But hey, at least we still have Amanda Stenberg ×2. And let's be real, the casting for this show is incredible. Yeah. Lee Jung-jae, Carrie-Anne Moss, and they even got Daphne Keane from Logan.
Oh yeah, and we can't forget Manny Jacinto. He plays this character called the Stranger. And the fans loved him, even though he might not be around for long.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, let's just say the show's future isn't exactly certain.
Oh no, don't tell me they already canceled it.
We'll get to that, but first, let's talk about some of the cool behind-the-scenes stuff that makes the Acolyte so unique. For example, did you know they decided to film most of it without using stagecraft?
Wait, really? That's that fancy LED screen technology they used in The Mandalorian, right?
That's the one. They wanted the action scenes to feel more grounded, you know. And I have to say, it works.
And it probably saved them a ton of money on special effects, which means more money for awesome Force Witch costumes. Speaking of which, the visuals in this show are incredible.
They really went all out. And the music is amazing, too. They brought in Michael Abels, the composer for Get Out. He created a score that's both epic and kind of creepy at the same time. It really captures the mystery at the heart of the show.
And let's not forget about that Victoria Monet song, Power of Two, that plays during the end credits.
Oh man, chills every time. It's like they knew exactly what kind of music we needed for a deep dive into the dark side of the Force.
Right. Speaking of the dark side, we can't ignore the fan reactions to this show, which, as you might imagine, have been, well, let's just say divided.
Yeah, divided is one way to put it.
Divided. How so? Give me the details.
So, critics are loving The Acolyte, but some Star Wars fans, not so much. Remember how we talked about it going against expectations?
Yeah, like shaking things up a bit.
Right. Well, some viewers felt like it strayed too far from what they considered traditional Star Wars.
You mean the whole diversity thing? Because seriously, it's like some folks forgot that Star Wars has always been about more than just one type of story, one kind of hero.
Exactly. But instead of engaging with those themes, some people went full-on attack mode review bombing, accusations of the show being too woke. It's a shame, really, because it just shuts down any real conversation about representation.
For real, it's a fictional universe with space wizards and laser swords. Can we all just chill out a bit? But okay, back to the show itself. You mentioned how the Acolyte isn't afraid to show the Jedi Order's flaws. What did the IndieWire reviewers say about that?
They loved it, actually.
What?
They were impressed by how the show delves into those gray areas, especially with Lee Jung-jae's character, Jedi Master Saul. He's this respected Jedi Master, sworn to uphold peace and justice, but, and this is a big but, he's carrying a huge secret.
Ooh, juicy. What kind of secret?
A past mistake, something he's hidden even from the Jedi Council. And it's a mistake that directly ties back to Amandla Stenberg's character, Osha.
Okay, hold up. Are you saying Saul's past actions somehow pushed Osha towards the Force Witches?
It's a tangled web, but yeah. And the deeper Saul digs, the more he realizes the Jedi Order might be complicit in the very darkness that's slowly creeping across the galaxy.
Wow. So we've got Saul grappling with his own demons, and his past actions might have inadvertently created a Force Witch. Talk about unintended consequences.
And it makes you think, are the Jedi really the guardians of peace they claim to be? Or are they blinded by their own dogma?
That's deep. And that's what I love about the Acolyte. It's not just about lightsabers. It's about these bigger questions, these moral dilemmas, even within the Jedi Order. It's making us think.
Exactly. And it challenges our perceptions, especially because it's set during the High Republic era, when the Jedi are at the peak of their power. Seeing those cracks appear during their supposed golden age, well, it makes their eventual downfall all the more tragic.
Because you realize it was always there, lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly. It adds a whole other layer of tension to the story. We know what's coming, but seeing how those seeds of destruction were sown, it's unsettling.
It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. You know it's going to happen, but you're powerless to stop it.
And that brings us back to those fan reactions. It makes sense that some people might not be comfortable with this darker, more nuanced portrayal of the Jedi.
I get it. We like our heroes squeaky clean.
Right. But the Acolyte peels back the layers, showing us that even the most noble institutions, even the Jedi, are susceptible to temptation, to corruption.
It's that whole power corrupts thing, playing out on a galactic scale.
Precisely. And that's what makes the Acolyte such an important and, I'd argue, necessary addition to Star Wars. It challenges our assumptions, forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, and ultimately deepens our understanding of this universe that we love.
It's about more than just entertainment. It's about sparking a conversation.
Exactly. And speaking of sparking conversation, did you pick up on the visual symbolism in the Acolyte, particularly the way they play with light and shadow?
Ooh, tell me more.
Especially in those scenes with the Force Witches, it's like the cinematography itself reflects the duality of the Force, that constant push and pull between good and evil.
Wow, I didn't catch that. Guess I need to give it a rewatch. But hey, we've talked a lot about the Jedi and the Force Witches, but what about the other characters? This cast is stacked. What can you tell us about Daphne Keene's role?
She's amazing as always. She plays Jackie Lon, a Padawan, who's, let's say, a bit less traditional than some of her fellow Jedi.
Sounds intriguing.
She's got this rebellious streak, this thirst for knowledge and adventure, and it often puts her at odds with her Master Ra.
Which is
Jedi Master Saul, of course.
Of course. It's like everyone in this show is connected in some way.
Exactly. And Jackie's relationship with Saul is particularly interesting because she becomes this kind of moral compass for him, constantly challenging his decisions, pushing him to confront his past.
Oh, so she's not just a sidekick. She's a catalyst for his growth.
Exactly. And her presence highlights this generational clash within the Jedi Order, a fin that Maybe, just maybe, the old ways aren't always the best ways.
It's a theme that's always relevant, right? Tradition versus progress, questioning authority.
Absolutely. The Acolyte manages to weave these timeless themes into this epic space opera.
And does it well. What about Manny Jacinto's character, the stranger? He left us hanging earlier.
Ah, the stranger. A character shrouded in mystery. He's first introduced as a seemingly harmless smuggler, but as the show goes on, you start to see glimpses of something else. Something darker.
Okay, you've officially piqued my interest. What kind of darker nature are we talking about here?
Well, let's just say he's strong with the Force, but his understanding of it, let's just say it's a bit unconventional. He's walking that line between the light and the dark and his true motivations. Still a mystery, even after the season finale.
Oh, I love a good ambiguous character. But you said a connection to the Force. So is he Force sensitive like a Jedi, or is there something else going on?
That's the million credit question, isn't it? The show hints at a deeper connection, a past shrouded in tragedy that might explain his current path. And get this, we learn he has a history with Vernestra Rwoh.
Hold on, Vernestra Rwoh, as in the Vernestra Rwoh from the High Republic books, that Vernestra Rwoh.
The one and only. And it's not just a random cameo either. It turns out she and the stranger have a past, a bond forged during a time of crisis.
Okay, this is getting good. So we've got this mysterious character, a hidden past, a connection to a fan-favorite Jedi, and powers that seem to defy the usual rules. Where do I sign up for more?
Right. And the way they leave his story so open-ended, are his intentions good, bad, something else entirely? We need answers.
Ugh, the suspense. Speaking of cliffhangers, you mentioned something earlier about the show's future being a little uncertain.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Despite the critical acclaim, the passionate fan base, The Acolyte, was canceled after just one season.
No, you're kidding.
I know, it's a gut punch, especially with all the potential the show had.
It's such a bummer.
It is, but hey, we got one amazing season, and you never know, maybe, just maybe, those passionate fans will rally for a revival. Stranger things have happened.
Here's hoping. But even without a second season, The Acolyte has already made a mark on the Star Wars universe.
It definitely has.
It makes you think about the Jedi, the Force, and the lines between good and evil in a whole new way.
It's about more than just lightsabers and spaceships. It's about the choices we make, the consequences of our actions, and that struggle between light and darkness that's inside all of us, even Jedi.
And it looks amazing while doing it.
Speaking of which, did you notice how they use those different locations to reflect the different sides of the Force?
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. It's all grand and imposing, with those clean lines and sterile surfaces, almost like a physical representation of the Jedi's focus on order and control, right?
Right, like a giant meditation chamber.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with the Force Witch's Grove, hidden away in this lush forest. It's overflowing with life and raw energy.
It's like those two places are visual metaphors for the light and dark sides of the Force.
Exactly. And the Acolyte isn't afraid to explore that space in between those extremes. It reminds us that the Force isn't something to be easily controlled or manipulated. It's a force of nature, just as capable of destruction as it is of creation.
Which makes you realize that anyone who tries to wield that kind of power, Jedi or Force Witch, better tread carefully.
Right. It could easily consume them. Speaking of which, let's circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the show's cancellation and the incredible outpouring of support from fans.
Oh yeah, the fans are not happy.
And you know what? It's actually really heartwarming to see how deeply this show has connected with people, canceled or not.
It's true. It sparked so many discussions online, not just about the plot, but about the bigger picture stuff, too.
Exactly. And that's what makes The Acolyte so special. It's not afraid to ask the tough questions, to challenge our perceptions, and to start a conversation.
It's proof that even a show with a short run can still leave a lasting impact. But okay, enough about the cancellation. Let's talk about the things that make The Acolyte so damn good. And for me, it's the characters. Starting with Amandla Stenberg. Playing two different characters, especially twin sisters on opposite sides of the Force, that can't be easy. But they made it look effortless.
Absolutely. They brought such depth to both Osha and May. You could feel that shared history between them, the love, the resentment, the hope, and the heartbreak, all at the same time.
It was like watching two sides of the same coin, both connected yet completely different. And then there's Lee Jung-jae as Jedi Master Saul. Talk about a masterclass in subtlety.
Right. He doesn't need flashy lightsaber battles or force lightning to command your attention. He can convey so much with just a look, a sigh.
He's the strong, silent type, but with hidden depths.
And speaking of hidden depths, we have to talk about Manny Jacinto as the Stranger. He is magnetic, isn't he? Every time he's on screen, you just can't look away.
He's got that mischievous energy, like he knows something you don't.
Those sly smiles. You're never quite sure what he's going to do next. Which side he'll choose, if any, is brilliant.
He's the wild card in a story already full of twists and turns, and that's what makes The Acolyte such a refreshing take on Star Wars, right? It doesn't shy away from those morally ambiguous characters.
Exactly. It challenges those black and white good versus evil tropes that we often see in genre fiction.
Because let's be real, the best stories are the ones that make us think, that make us question our own assumptions about right and wrong.
And speaking of questioning assumptions, one of the things that struck me about The Acolyte is its exploration of human relationships.
It's about how those connections can either make us stronger or completely break us.
Especially the relationship between Osha and Mary. You have these twin sisters, bound by blood but divided by their beliefs, their loyalties, and their understanding of the Force. It's a microcosm of the larger galactic conflict, don't you think?
Totally. And it reminds us that even in a galaxy with spaceships and lightsabers, it's those human connections, those messy, complicated relationships that truly matter.
Speaking of complicated, let's talk about the show's legacy for a second. Yes, it was canceled, but it sparked this incredible response from fans.
They're hungry for more, and they're making their voices heard. There's so much passion for The Acolyte, and that says something about the power of this show, right?
It proves that sometimes the shows that resonate the most are the ones that end too soon.
It's like that book you can't put down, and then bam, it's over before you're ready.
Exactly. But, even though it's over, the conversations, the fan theories, the excitement for what could have been, that's still going strong.
And that's a testament to the creators, the writers, the actors, everyone who poured their heart and soul into bringing this vision to life.
Speaking of vision, one of the things that impressed me was the production design. The way they used practical effects and those incredibly detailed sets to create this believable, lived-in galaxy. It was masterful.
Oh, 100%. You could tell they put a lot of thought into every detail, from the costumes to the props.
Remember how we talked earlier about how they decided not to go overboard with the whole stagecraft thing?
Right, they wanted to keep things grounded, more realistic.
But I think that decision paid off.
Yeah.
Especially those fight scenes.
The action was so much more visceral.
Like you were right there in the thick of it.
Totally. But it wasn't just about the action. The whole look of the show is incredible.
Yeah.
And those costumes, Jennifer Bryan, the costume designer, deserves all the awards.
Agreed. Every outfit was like a work of art, telling a story about the character and the world they live in.
Okay, so we've talked about the themes, the characters, the design, and the fan reactions, but what about the music?
Oh, man. The music. Where do we even start?
Totally. It's like they took that classic Star Wars sound, the one we all know and love, and gave it this edgy, kind of unsettling vibe. Fit the whole show perfectly.
For sure. Those dissonant strings, those haunting melodies. It's like the music itself was telling you something was a little off.
And let's not forget about that Victoria Monet song, Power of Two. Haunting. It's like the perfect musical metaphor for the whole light versus dark theme. But hey, speaking of cliffhangers, you mentioned earlier that the show's future is a little uncertain.
Yeah, about that. Despite all the love, the critical acclaim, The Acolyte got canceled after just one season.
No. Are you serious?
I know. It's a heartbreaker, especially when we were just getting to the good part.
It feels like they just left us hanging.
I know, right? But hey, at least we got that one amazing season. And you never know, maybe, just maybe, if enough fans make enough noise.
Fingers crossed for a miracle revival. But even without a second season, The Acolyte definitely made its mark on the Star Wars universe.
It definitely did. It's a show that stays with you, makes you think.
It's more than just entertainment. It makes you question things, challenge your own beliefs. And isn't that what great storytelling is all about?
Absolutely. The Acolyte doesn't give you all the answers. It leaves you with questions, with mysteries to unravel.
It's like a good book that you can't put down, and then bam, it's over before you're ready.
Exactly. But the cool thing is, even though it's over, the conversations it started, they're still going strong.
And that's a testament to the power of this show, the way it's captured people's imaginations. So before we wrap things up, what are some of the key takeaways you think listeners should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, The Acolyte reminds us that actions have consequences, even in a galaxy far, far away. The choices we make, they have ripple effects, impacting not just ourselves, but the people around us, even across generations.
Right, just like what happened with Saul and the impact his past actions had on OSHA.
Exactly. It's a message that's especially relevant today as we deal with things like climate change and social justice issues. What we do now will impact the future, for better or for worse.
It's a sobering thought, but an important one. And the Acolyte doesn't shy away from those tough conversations.
Not at all. And speaking of things, the Acolyte doesn't shy away from that brings us to another key takeaway. The show's portrayal of the Force itself.
Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, not just a tool for the good guys.
Exactly. The Acolyte reminds us that the Force is this raw, powerful energy with a dark side that's just as seductive, just as dangerous as the light.
Even the Jedi, those paragons of peace and justice, aren't immune to its allure.
And that brings us to another key takeaway. The importance of questioning everything, even those we hold up as heroes or role models.
Don't just blindly follow, even if it's the Jedi Order. They've got secrets too, just like everyone else.
Right. Question authority, question tradition, question everything.
Especially if it feels like something's a little off.
Exactly. And finally, the Acolyte reminds us of the power of representation and inclusion. Seeing a cast that's so diverse, so reflective of the world we live in, it's not just refreshing, it's essential.
Totally. It shows that anyone, no matter their background, can be a hero, a villain, a Jedi, a Force witch, whatever. It makes the Star Wars universe feel so much bigger, so much more relatable.
And it paves the way for richer, more nuanced storytelling.
Hmm.
So to wrap things up, The Acolyte, even though it only ran for one season, was a show that dared to be different.
It challenged our perceptions of the Star Wars universe, kept us on the edge of our seats with its twists and turns, and sparked some really important conversations.
It's a show that will stay with us long after the credits roll. And that's a testament to the power of great storytelling.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to power down our lightsabers and jump back into hyperspace until next time. It's been a wild ride through the High Republic era with the Acolyte.
May the Force be with you all.
Always.